So for various reasons, some brands have stopped talking about their packaging sustainability goals and or the results that they've been getting from their goals. And I'm just wondering what you guys think. Do you agree with that tactic? Curtis, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think companies are still in the mix of like figuring out sustainability and how to approach it. Obviously, EPR is a really hot topic right now, and folks,
EPR, extended
uh,
producer responsibility. Yep.
yes, thanks, Lisa. Yep, and so people are trying to figure out what they want to say, if they want to say it, or how they want to say it. And there's unlike greenwashing, we have greenhushing, and trying to find that happy medium. I think folks are really trying to find that comfortability, what the consumers want to hear as well, and how they want to be transparent with that information. So there's still some regulatory uncertainty on the EPR side. There's competitiveness too as well. Secretively, do they want to share exactly what they're doing yet, or do they want to kind of get through a big process of maybe qualifying something new or hitting their goals and then kind of talking about it later, or just kind of that backlash of from the consumers of if they're not putting out the right information and making sure it's accurate.
That's a
Okay.
big thing that I've seen where people can slice and dice the data different ways, or they're scared of misconstruing. They don't want to be accused of greenwashing, and so they might be making some big strides and putting a pretty big effort forward to be more sustainable and get into more sustainable packaging. But then they're I see a lot of big companies that are stutter stepping on making a big splash publicly because they don't want to be accused of greenwashing. And there's been a couple big examples in the last 2 years where companies have made a big publicity about the big strides that they've been making with sustainable packaging solutions, and then and then they kind of get their face kind of rubbed in the dirt a little bit because even though they did try and put their best foot forward on doing things in a packaging their materials in a sustainable package, but they on the front end, but then on the back end, as far as being able to get that packaging recycled, different municipalities have different capabilities, and so some parts of the world they've got some really good capabilities on recycling, like for flexible plastics and things like that, whereas in the US curbside recyclability is a big difference between recyclable and curbside recyclable. So you kind of
Yes.
have to watch out, how they're defining things and what they're saying in different areas of the world or different municipalities even.
Okay, so I understand the not wanting to be accused of greenwashing, and I also understand the competitiveness of things. But is the little bit of a trend toward greenhushing, does that have anything to do with very specifically 2025 and some of these corporations who had made goals through the Ellen MacArthur Foundation pact? Do you think that has anything to do with why they're sort of going silent now? Here we are at 2025. Maybe they didn't reach their goals. They don't want to call attention to it. Could that be part of it too?
I definitely think that's a piece of it, and they don't. The bummer is that even though they may have been making some huge strides, they're shy about calling attention to it because even though they might be falling short a little bit, it's unfortunate that they are scared that they won't see the praise for at least trying their best to hit those goals, that the very aggressive goals that people put in place maybe 10 years ago or so, or 6 or 8 years ago, the climate pledge of 2025,
Mhm.
2030. There's been some pretty big people made some big commitments and they made big investments to try and achieve those goals. But even though they might be falling short, it's unfortunate that that could be seen in a really bad light by their shareholders or by the consumers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
to add to that too, I think Lisa, there's so much attention on EPR right now. The Oregon deadline is March 31st. Colorado got moved up to July 31st. We have California coming in August. A lot of companies are really getting bogged down by that. I think it's more than they thought it would kind of take from a resource perspective. I think as well, they're seeing that like, oh, we're going to start paying fees here, and we're going to see what these states may think is more harmful, and that might skew what our goals were. They're going to want to reduce fees, as well as all the discussions going on at California around reusable and renewable kind of materials, and reusable the definitions around that, which are still very open, is going to probably impact maybe their goals, and maybe make them cause to shift what they want to focus on. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that all plays out this year with those three states kind of coming into fruition, and the CAA, the Pro CAA, Circular Action
Action
Alliance.
Alliance.
Yeah,
Thank
that they like what they kind of put out, and how the fees kind of get pushed back onto the producers. So it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out. And we have a lot of clients that are kind of stressing about that are focused on that. And I think that also has something to do with it, where they may be a little sidetracked with their initial kind of goals there.
Yep, another good point. But let's look into the pros and cons of greenhushing. What do you think is, despite the reasons why it's happening, what's good or bad about this happening?
I don't see the positive on it. There might be just from a reputation standpoint, but I see it more in a bad light, because it just kind of takes away focus of really trying to do the right thing and be more sustainable. And just because some companies are not hitting the extremely aggressive goals that they set forth for themselves, it's just unfortunate that it can be seen in a bad light. And I know that there's a lot of big companies out there that want to have a third party take a look at what they've done in the areas of sustainable packaging, to make sure that their statistics are legitimate, because they just are just a little bit too afraid of being accused of doing greenwashing. And so that's what I see a lot of in, at least with the
Okay.
folks that I interact with.
Okay. Curtis, do you see any
Yeah.
cons?
I do see cons. I'm trying to think if I see any pros. Nothing's really jumping out at me there either. I think from the cons perspective, like, erosion of customer trust. Like, a lot of the younger generations expect brands to be a little more transparent about their sustainability efforts, and staying silent could add some skepticism or decrease like kind of the brand loyalty. I also think it's a big opportunity missed for kind of brand differentiation. So, improving the packaging, if they're communicating their achievements effectively, and showing, it kind of sets them apart from their competitors as well. And they could potentially lose customers to some other brands if other brands kind of come out before them as well. And then at the high level, the investors and the stakeholder sides, like you mentioned, they have these really high goals. If they're not hitting them, potentially could raise concerns about their credibility or long-term kind of resilience in the market.
Sure. So it sounds like you guys both think that companies should still be talking about their sustainability efforts, and perhaps results, whether it's talking about hitting a specific goal or not, just talking about what they're doing. So what do you think is the best way that brands should do that now? Do you think it's still on pack, through marketing? Like, what do you guys think?
I mean, I've seen some companies have really good luck by doing it on pack. And it gets a lot of attention, a lot of social media posts, kind of, people showing the packages that they get, and the messaging that's on those, as far as the strides that those brand owners are making in the areas of sustainability. But to me, that seems like a very strong way to kind of display what you're doing.
Yeah, I agree. And, I think customer or producers or brands, really kind of need to kind of hit home on like kind of honest storytelling, and sharing their successes and challenges. Because like you mentioned, like I think if they bring out their challenges too, I'm sure there's a lot of other brands that are having the same challenges, and working with their suppliers and other brands to kind of help overcome those is only going to help the sustainability get driven even further. There's companies like Patagonia that are really good at maintaining their kind of transparency of their sourcing and how their environmental impact is. like Andy mentioned, third-party kind of data is really important, which I think we've seen out of some articles that have come out with some issues from greenwashing last year and stuff. So those are really important. And kind of leveraging those are really helping kind of tying those back to the corporate values and messaging.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it matters the effectiveness of the messaging depending on what it is that the brands are doing? Like, is recycling or recycled content a little bit easier of a sell to consumers because they understand it, because it's something that they can participate in, versus something like, just source reduction or a material swap? We're still seeing quite a lot of plastics moving to fiber, some kind of paperboard. Does it matter what brands should be, what message how brands share their message about their sustainability efforts, depending on what those efforts are?
Yeah, I mean, I think if they can share as much information as they can, every customer or consumer is going to have a different background and different understanding of different parts of the industry. So, obviously Andy and myself know a lot more about PCR and recycled content than some other folks. So, sharing as much as you can about the story, how you got there, what's changed, and not just what's changed in the end unit, but like the whole product life cycle is really important and kind of gets back to that storytelling.
Yeah, I totally agree. And to maybe somebody who's not so focused on packaging, just kind of seeing, this is made with recyclable, 100% recyclable content or 100% recycled materials. I think that speaks to a pretty wide breadth of folks. But when you're talking about, how many tons of CO2 has been alleviated by going to this different type of package or different structure, kind of showing what that year over year, the gains that they've made since they've gone into this new pack type. I think that also speaks volumes to a pretty big swath of people as well, not just packaging minded folks, but just a lot of folks that are just
Interested in the environment?
interested in the environment. Yeah.
Eco-conscious? Yes, I agree.
Eco-conscious. There you go.
Okay, great. Gentlemen, you've shared so much already. I appreciate that. Just wondering if you have any other, other thoughts or final thoughts on greenhushing from the brand owner's perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just encourage brands and producers to, register with the CAA, really get involved. And we've got a lot of deadlines this year that's only going to help drive the industry and drive sustainability across packaging. We're here to help as well, and really looking forward to kind of getting through this year and helping everybody out, and then kind of working towards the eco-modulation and the credits and bonuses, and really seeing sustainable packaging kind of come into play across the different industries.
Yeah, I completely second what Curtis just said there. I mean, especially when it comes down to the eco-modulation piece and kind of on the back end to kind of, first showing what that baseline is or where you're at today, and then really making some strides on the eco-modulation piece by getting into more sustainable packaging and kind of highlighting to your customer base, this is not just to the States, but to your customer base, this is, look what we've done, in the areas of sustainable packaging. And I think that's just going to only help the brands in the end.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate you spending time with me and sharing your expertise. Curtis, Andy, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.